What is up, guys? We are back again, another one of these discussion episodes. Again, there is an article to go along with this. Again, it's linked in the description. There's also video and audio, so you're obviously listening, looking at this on either YouTube or via the podcast. But yeah, there are other methods if you would prefer to view it or read it. I would recommend going to the article for this one, because this discussion is either going to go one of two ways, and I'm either going to be really succinct and really to the point, or I'm just going to ramble on about a lot of different things. So the article is a lot more concise. It does kind of go boom boom, there you go, there's the information that you need. The question today, it's actually a question I got during the week while I was in the gym talking to one of the lads, and essentially his question was, how can I improve my chin-up performance, you know? And this is something that I actually have got a good few times throughout the years, people looking to improve their ability to do chin-ups, you know, because people do seem to think, especially women, that it is a valuable skill to have, and you know, it's something that's kind of empowering, the ability to move your body weight through space, you know. Most people, once they've trained for a while, will be able to do a couple of push-ups, you know, so that's kind of a lower barrier to achieve. It's kind of like, okay, look, I've trained for a while, I can do push-ups. I can do push-ups from the knees at least, you know, but I'm nowhere near being able to do chin-ups. Or you might be like, I can get one or two, but they don't seem to progress at all, you know. So there are a few tips, few tricks that you can implement to increase your performance, so you're actually getting the most out of the exercise itself. However, before we get into that discussion, it should be noted that you obviously first of all have to address why chin-ups, pull-ups, any of those kind of movements are in your program, and whether it is actually your goal or are helping you towards your goal, or you're just doing them because, you know, oh, everyone does chin-ups, you know. So again, you do have to go into the thought process behind including them in your program. But again, we've discussed that before, like you're probably sick of hearing it, but yeah, putting chin-ups in your program is going to obviously be goal dependent, so you want to make sure that it actually fits your goal to have them in your program. However, if you are including chin-ups in your program and you want to increase your performance with chin-ups, either doing more reps or doing more weight, you know, it is a common question, so we'll get into it. The first thing is assessing the available ranges you have and assessing the strength level you have and the limiting factors there. So essentially, like, we're using that triage method, you know, where we're kind of going, okay, where are the limiting factors? Do we actually have the available strength, the available range to get into these positions and then effectively load them? And for most people, the chin-up position is a position that a lot of people just don't have the way they perform it, you know. They don't have the available range to get into a good position, so the exercise is always going to be more challenging than it actually needs to be, purely because they don't have the available range. And it's a really easy way, and I'm going to talk you through it as well as show you, because I know some people are listening whereas some people are watching. If you just turn your palm up, in terms of, you know, put your palm facing towards the sky, you can keep the arm bent, you can have it straight out in front of you, and all I want you to do is bring that arm overhead. Now, the vast majority of you, including myself, aren't going to be able to keep that hand fully supinated and bring the arm overhead. Either the elbow will start going out to the side, or you'll have to artificially, well, not artificially, you'll have to keep that elbow bent to keep that hand in that supinated position, you know. So already you're at a disadvantage if you're trying to load up an exercise and produce a lot of force, because obviously you have to move your entire body weight and you don't have the available range for that exercise. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, I clearly do, because, you know, I can hang from a bar with a supinated grip. But again, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about that active and passive range. Like, you can passively, like I could passively bring myself into that range and keep myself in that range. However, I don't have active control of it. So we're always going to be leaking that little bit of energy. And I went into a little bit more detail in the article itself, but there are other stuff that could go wrong. You know, it could be at the shoulder that the issue is. You don't have the available range in that overhead position. Maybe a wider position suits you. You know, there are other things that will fall apart. Again, if you're looking into expanding your knowledge on that, get into the militia. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes here explaining available ranges and, you know, anatomy and biomechanics when there's entire articles on the topic in the militia. So yeah, if you are kind of looking to optimize your performance, you need to have the required ranges. And for the majority of people, they just don't have that range. And it's all the hammering of chin-ups in the world aren't going to make up for that. You're always going to be somewhat shooting yourself in the foot trying to load a position that you're never going to get strong in, unless of course you do have, we'll call it a mobility issue, where the active range you currently have isn't the maximal active range that you possibly could have. You know, it's not, say, you know, you're reaching the end of that capacity for that joint to move. It's just there's some sort of restriction that's preventing you from doing it, and a little bit of work would sort it out. Because for some people that will be the issue. For the majority of people, you know, your joint structure is just not going to allow you be in that supinated position overhead. So take that for what it is. You can either listen to me and go, oh, okay, I'll switch to what he's going to say now in a second, or you can go, nah, fuck that, I'm just going to keep hammering away at my supinated chin-ups because X strength coach said that's the way forward, or whatever else, where you saw, I don't know, fucking some bodybuilder or some guy you respect does them that way. That's cool. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just here to give you some information. You can do whatever the hell you want to do with that information. What I would suggest doing is, again, first of all, assessing your available ranges where you have, like, again, like, you just go into the position, see if you can actively bring yourself into that position. Fairly straightforward with that. Most people are just not going to have it at the shoulder, which is going to manifest in the supination at the wrist. So what I just do is switch to a supinated grip, so palms facing. I would also try to keep it, you know, roughly shoulder width, or maybe just slightly outside shoulder width distance. Inside this, you're not really going to get, or sorry, inside the shoulders, you're not really going to get the most out of your lats, and you'll be kind of biasing other things. So assess your ranges, if you have it, if you don't, and then, you know, go from there. For the vast majority of you, a semi-supinated grip is going to solve 90% of the problems you have before they actually start. You know, you'll actually be able to get into good positions and allow your muscles to produce enough force to be effective in that chin-up, you know, kind of movement. So next thing then is the available strength, or the strength level you have at the different joints that are moving. You know, so for you, or well, for the vast majority of people, they're just not going to have the correct scapular strength to effectively load the movement. For some people, it may be, you know, elbow flexor strength. It may be something else, maybe even just grip strength. But you need to assess, look, what are the limiting factors here for you. For the vast majority of people, it is going to be a little bit of grip strength. I'm going to say less likely to be bicep strength or elbow flexor strength, and the vast majority of you are just not going to have the scapular strength, that kind of retraction, depression kind of strength. So you'll see a lot of people do this, and they'll do their chin-ups, and they'll always be in this kind of internally rotated, shoulders shrugged up position, which, yeah, that's cool, that's fine if, you know, that's a position you get into in your, I don't know, work, job, sport, whatever it is, and you just want to strengthen that position. Cool, if there's a rational thought process behind that. However, if you're going, I'm using chin-ups to target my lats, and I'm using them to, you know, grow my back or arms bigger, whatever, or get stronger in that position, then actually learning to kind of retract, depress your scapula, and actually being able to use them is going to be, you know, a better long-term solution to your issues, rather than just kind of going, oh yeah, I'm just going to forget about my scapulas and just let them shrug up, you know. So I would, for the vast majority of you, look into actually strengthening that scapula position, and we go into that a little more in depth in the article, and I'll talk about it in a second as well. For some of you as well, I should actually mention, I don't think I mentioned it in the article, you can also use like rings, like gymnastics rings. That is also another solution to giving you a little bit more freedom at the shoulder, at the wrist, because you can actually move the rings in a more kind of fluid manner, just like your shoulder is moving, or the shoulder capsule, the shoulder joint is moving. So it actually gives you a little bit more ability to use your muscles effectively. However, some people will notice that the instability is just a little bit too much for them given their current strength level. So, you know, a semi-supinated grip is going to work more effectively for the majority of people. The next thing then, and I'm kind of encompassing two things with this, is effective cueing and technique. We'll call it biomechanics or exercise execution. You know, if you don't know what you're actually trying to achieve or target or do with your chin up, then you're not going to be able to effectively cue or execute that exercise. So again, if you're trying to build a stronger back, you know, there's going to be cues for that. If you're trying to just get good at chin-ups, just isn't in and of themselves, if I could speak, then, you know, there's going to be specific cues for that. There's going to be specific exercise execution, we'll call them tips, depending on the overall goal of the exercise. So effective cueing, effective exercise execution is also going to solve a lot of the issues people have, because what people generally do is they just try to throw themselves, get the chin over the bar and call it good, and they just look like they're having some sort of spastic attack, and they're just throwing themselves everything's just going all over the place, and there's just no real control, no real, you know, targeted effort, you know. So there has to be a rational thought process between including the exercise and then actually performing the exercise. So if you're including it for a certain reason, perhaps to, I don't know, build the strength in your lats, and you're not targeting the lats when you actually execute the exercise, then, you know, something has to change there. There's a divide between your thought process and your actual execution of that thought process. So again, effective cueing, whether that's focusing on, you know, the elbows being pulled down so you can use your lats a bit more. Maybe you need to just focus on, like I said, just bringing the chin over the bar. Maybe you perform a sport and it's just chin over the bar, that's what it's marked as, and you just need to get strong in that kind of position. Again, that's going to have specific cueing. So understand how to execute the exercise for the goals, for the reason you have that exercise in your program. Understand the internal or external or both cues that go into allowing you perform that exercise in a manner that actually achieves the goals you're trying to perform. Next thing then is the use of machines and other exercises to actually strengthen that movement pattern and strengthen the muscles involved in that movement pattern, because you'll see a lot of people kind of shit all over exercises that aren't the actual exercise, especially when it comes to chin-ups. Like people will say, oh, lat pull downs don't build your chin-up strength, and you're going, okay, I can maybe agree with your thought process there, and then they'll turn around literally in the same breath, no cognitive dissonance in their head or in their thought process, and go, oh yeah, well, you can use these special exercises to bring up your squat, bench, deadlift. And it's like, wait, so I can't use special exercises to bring up my chin up, but I can use special exercises to bring up my other exercises. Like, there's some sort of chasm here between an actual coherent thought process, you know? But yeah, special exercises or other exercises or machines or free weights or whatever, if you understand what you're trying to target, if you understand what you're trying to achieve by implementing them, of course they can be a very valuable add-on to actually building the strength to be able to do multiple chin-ups. For example, like I said with the lat pull down, you know, using that to actually teach yourself correct cueing, correct scapula position, and then also strengthen the musculature that you're going to be using in that exercise is obviously going to translate into better performance in that exercise. You know, so if you're using the lat pull down and you're doing it correctly in terms of you're cueing it effectively, you're executing it effectively so that it is building strength for the chin up, then that will translate into chin up specific strength. However, you will obviously have to translate that built up strength, that built up, you know, we'll call it coordination, into the chin up itself. Like, I'm not going to say that you just do a load of sets of lat pull downs and all of a sudden your chin up improves. It might, and anecdotally, you know, getting strong, and I'm gonna say it in a second, like get strong all over will translate into better chin up performance, you know? So again, if you were implementing exercises to target specific things that you've identified, either in, you know, the available strength that you have or the available ranges that you have, if you're targeting certain things, again, especially that scapula positioning, that scapula movement, you will see that translate to improved performance in the chin up itself. And then, as I said, getting strong all over. So actually identifying what are the muscles involved, what do I need to be strong in to actually see an improvement in performance. You know, maybe for you it is the lats, maybe for you it is the scapula, the scapular retractor strength, or, you know, that scapular retraction depression kind of strength, and maybe it is the elbow flexors, maybe it is the grip strength, you know, assessing what is a limiting factor and then actually getting strong across the board will translate into improved performance in the chin up itself. And I went into a little bit more in depth in the article. I don't want to do it here now, but a chin up, and with all exercise, it is effectively skill work, you know, so it is effectively a skill. So performing it like a skill and thinking of it, contextualizing it like a skill, will help you better understand how you should program things. In terms of what I mean by that is, any skill, you can use other things to help you with that skill and improve your performance with that skill, but performing that skill is going to be the best method of actually getting good at that skill. You know, like you might find, I don't know, the skill of playing football, you know, whatever, you know, being able to dribble the ball, being able to run, etc. You know, there's obviously many skills involved in that, and the best way to get good at it is to play football. Okay, pretty straightforward. But if you have weak muscles or you have limiting factors, strengthening those are going to improve your skill specific work. You know, if you constantly tear your hip flexor, your quads or whatever because you're kicking the ball, and all of a sudden you strengthen those muscles up and you stop getting tears, you're going to be better at the skills that you want to perform, you know? So getting strong all over and actually treating your stuff like skills, or it's a skill acquisition thing that you're trying to do, then you will better be able to understand the thought process that goes behind actually designing a plan of action for you as an individual, you know? So a chin up is a skill. So if you do get strong in all these other movements, that's not necessarily going to translate specifically right now into an improvement in your skill. And what I mean by that is, again, you can get beautifully strong on lat pull downs and try to go over and do a chin up, and you might not notice improved chin up performance right there and then. However, the fact that you've spent some time getting strong hopefully in position specific movements, then you will see improved performance on your chin up work once you actually start practicing that skill again, you know? So this is what you'll see commonly against, or the argument against, doing all other exercises to improve something. It's like, oh well, I was doing lat pull down and I went over to do chin ups and I couldn't, even though I'm doing my body weight on the lat pull down stack, you know, and I couldn't do one chin up. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool, when was the last time you practiced doing chin ups? And it's like, I don't know, 10 years ago. Okay, well, it's a skill. You have to actually learn to translate the strength that you have into a skill itself, you know? So take that for what you will. I would suggest getting strong all over. It's a pretty good approach. And then if you do have skills that you want to acquire, actually practicing those skills is going to be the method that you can actually get stronger at those skills. You know, practice gets you stronger. It's a pretty straightforward concept. Two methods then that people will often use. One of them I kind of like, one of them I kind of like less. Bands. This is the one I kind of like less because people end up relying on them and they change the mechanics of the exercise in a way that doesn't necessarily lead you to get stronger at chin-ups. And what I mean by that is, if you use like a heavy or a thick band to help you perform your chin-ups, you won't be strengthening as effectively the range that people are oftentimes weakest at, which is that bottom range. Now again, this is again the argument that, you know, people don't actually have that bottom range, it's passive range, and that's why they're so fucking weak at it. But even still, if you are using bands to perform your chin-ups is really variable in terms of how much support you get off that band, because some people I know use like 2 feet in it, or 2 knees in it, or 1 foot in it, or 1 knee in it, and use it for support like that. However, rep to rep, there could be more support on one rep, less support on one rep, depending on how much pressure you put into it. It also changes the way you actually act in relation to that fixed point, which is that chin up bar, because it kind of moves you away. You don't use as many like synergistic muscles or stabilizer muscles. However, even though I'm kind of bagging on it, I actually do like this method. The only thing I don't like about it is when people stay using this method for extended periods of time and don't use it for what it is. And what it is essentially a proprioceptive tool to both help you learn the positions that you need to be in, practice the positions that you need to be in, and then obviously overload certain portions of those positions. But if you're using a band for 6 months, 12 months, you know, I'd be kind of like, we need to regress this and actually work up building the strength that you need to be able to do this, or bring in some other method, because there's no reason for you to be on this same band or potentially a little bit lighter band for so long, you know. And there's another thing, people use pretty fucking heavy and thick bands for these, and it's essentially just taking all of the weight off the movement. So again, it's like if you use a very light band and you're just using it to give you that little extra bit, cool, no worries with that. Again, it's going to help you with your position, it's going to help you with your cueing, it's going to help you with your execution. And again, once you start transitioning off that, you will notice that it does actually improve your free chin-up performance. But if you're stuck on a band for ages, I'd be kind of questioning why you need that crutch, you know. Next thing then, the method that I do really like is eccentrics. Generally you're going to be stronger on the eccentric portion of a lift, and using that to your advantage in terms of your programming is a very effective method for increasing your strength in a very time effective manner. A method that I like is just doing singles, in terms of just doing 1 rep but using multiple sets to build up volume. And what I generally do is try to do a single and maybe do a 3-second eccentric first of all, then the next workout or whatever, go for 4 seconds, then build it up 5 seconds, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then once you can get 10 seconds on the eccentric, I try to add more reps to those sets. Generally you'll find people, once they get to kind of 30 seconds of time under tension, so 3 reps of 10-second eccentrics, they generally have enough strength so that they can actually perform multiple, at least 2 to 3 reps of a free chin-up. Obviously you have to integrate that in, you have to practice the skill of actually doing the concentric, but if you're doing everything right, you're really working on your position and you're not just slowing the descent but you're still in a bad position, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using a good position, good exercise execution, and biasing that eccentric, then you will notice that your strength does go up in the concentric as well. So the next thing then, once you kind of built up that, you will be at a good level of strength. Again, you can use bands to kind of help you there. You could even use bands after you've built the eccentric strength, so that you're like, I need to translate all that strength that I know that I have into actually being able to perform concentric reps, and then popping on the bands then, and actually going through the motion, going through the movements with those actual reps, even though the band is helping you, will help you translate that into actually performing, we'll call them free chin-ups. Next method I like is, again, thinking of it like skill work. Pavel Sazzolini, Grease the Groove. We're just going to perform multiple reps either throughout the workout or throughout your day if you have like a chin-up station in your house, chin-up bar in your house, and just let the volume of low fatiguing but still perfect technique skill work take care of it, the progression itself. So if you're just doing multiple reps per day of non-failure chin-ups, you will notice quite quickly all that volume does add up and you do get strong pretty damn fast. You can either do this again in your workout, so I don't know, maybe on your push day or even your lower body day, doing some sets in between your sets of 1 to 3 chin-ups depending on your strength level, and just practicing the form, practicing on actually using good technique, and practicing the skill. You will see that volume does accumulate quite quickly, and you will get stronger quite quickly. And you will notice that, okay, maybe you're able to do 3 full reps and you just start doing sets of 1 to 2 throughout the day, throughout your workout. In a couple of weeks time, you'll notice that, oh, well, actually I can get sets of 3 easily, and I can actually get like a set of 5 now on like a max effort set. And you will notice that it just slowly ticks you along to improvement. So that is one way. The final thing then is reducing your body weight. And this is why, you know, gymnasts and bodyweight enthusiasts are quite light in terms of they try to keep a low body fat. Generally, you'll see gymnasts, they don't have like big legs at all, even though they have juicy physiques. They're also generally, you know, like 5'5", because having a low body weight does make these body weight movements a lot easier, you know. So if you are carrying a lot of excess body fat, or potentially even excess muscle mass, because you see bodybuilders and you'd think, oh, he's really strong, and you look at them doing a chin up and they just can't even perform one effectively at all, you know. So having extra body weight is detrimental to body weight skills. So you do have to factor that in. If you do have a lot of body weight to lose, you do have a lot of body fat to lose, prioritizing that will improve your performance. Now, obviously, there is this kind of interplay between dieting and we'll call it strength loss or performance decrements, but that comes down to actually structuring your diet effectively so that you're eating to support performance and not just eating to lose weight on the scale, you know. So there is obviously an effective way to do that, and there is obviously less effective ways to do that, and you will notice strength loss that way. And even though the body weight is going down, you might be dropping off reps, you know. So again, it comes down to effective planning about your training program and your nutrition as a whole. Anyway, guys, that's it. That's the discussion. I don't think it was too all over the place. Hopefully not. There is an article again to go along with this. You have the video, you have the audio, so it really depends on where you want to listen to this, where you want to look at this, and again, the article is there. I don't know if we have it up now, we may have it up now, but there is a section on the website that you can pop in your questions and request topics to be discussed, request articles, request audio, and you can also obviously pop in questions for the podcast itself as well. So do get on that, guys. If it's up, I'll link it in the description. If it's not up, you can check on the website. Maybe you're listening to this in a couple of months' time. It should be there. But yeah, anyway, guys, that is me. As per usual, you can follow us on social media. If you enjoy these, tell your friends about them. It does actually help our visibility quite a lot. If you rate the podcast, rate these episodes, whatever, on iTunes or whatever social media or podcast platform you listen to these on, you know, same with YouTube and all that kind of stuff, giving it likes, like thumbs up and subscribing does actually help the visibility of this. Obviously as well, sharing it with your friends, either in person, word of mouth, or popping it on your Instagram stories or whatever, does help the visibility of the podcast, and thus we can help more people, and that is our goal. Anyway, guys, that is me. Peace out.